Okay, this is chapter 2, and I want to give you kind of an overview of how you might do your homework assignments. The chapter problems at the end of chapter 2. Now, it starts out I would probably put down as a title chapter 2, and this is just in the text editor. That's all you have to do is put these homework assignments together in text editors, and then that was other than actually the chapter 1 problems. You probably would have had to have used Word, but other than that, it's all text editor. So chapter 2 problems. Now, question 1. Question 1. It reads. Now, I'm gonna pause it in a little while here because, as you can see, my YouTube video from the last video that how to create tables is being uploaded. So I'll pause it when I get to a point. But chapter 2, case problem 1. Says, based on the description of the Clearwater Traders database. Now that's the database picture that's on pages 25, 26, and 27, I believe. That's what you want to go look at in your text, and I think I'll probably create a PDF of that. I'll have to do that Thursday, of the set of tables. So based on the description of the Clearwater Traders database, determine the appropriate constraints for each table. Make certain you consider the following constraint types for each table in the database: primary keys, foreign keys, check conditions, not nulls, and uniques. Okay, so first of all, in the Clearwater Traders database, if you look at that, and I think I have my fields correctly. So you have, let's see, and it says determine the appropriate for each table. So you're going to have about 10, 11, 12 tables. Okay, so I'm just going to go through customer, but you're going to have 10 or 11, 12. So do those all within question 1 and question 2. Okay. Okay, I was just waiting for that video to get uploaded, and it hasn't yet, so I'll just go on. So for customer, I'm going to want to put the table name here, probably. And then the best way to work this out is probably to go C_ID. Now, what are the constraints associated with that? Well, first of all, it's a primary key. And I would put in parentheses, just so you know, it's unique and not null. Okay, a primary key is unique and not null. And I could probably just put this in lowercase. I don't know why it's in uppercase, but it is. C_last, I think, is the next one. Now, even though our database that we work with will not be concerned with a lot of different constraints, the more constraints you have, the more difficult it is to work with, and we would just want to keep it simple. So we aren't going to apply hardly any constraints other than primary keys and foreign keys, because you have to have those, because that ties the tables together. With that said, with these problems, it's saying, what would you do if you were the DBA? What kind of constraint would you put on these fields if you were like a DBA in charge of all this data? Well, C last, not null. Because you want to make sure somebody will enter that name in, no doubt. You have to have a name, and not null means you absolutely have to have an entry in that field. Now C_MI, I think might be I think first. I don't have that table in front of me. C_first, probably not null as well. C_MI, well, does it really matter if they have a middle name or not? Probably not. I can just leave that as is, but I would enter that though just the same. C_address, I think, is next. We absolutely have that, not null. Now let me go on down. I'm going to put this in the middle. Okay, those dots in the middle, because there's some fields in the middle there. But C_user ID. Okay, and there's C_password as part of that. And I think I have the names right on those fields, but double check. Now, think about C_user ID, and think about the different logins that you have. Now, authentication for a system is a combination of username and password. Now, can you and I have the same username? No, we can't. We absolutely cannot have the same username. So I would have to put in not null, because you have to have something, and UK for unique. Am I missing anything? It's not a primary key, it's not a foreign key, but it has to be not null and unique. Now, and think about the password now. You and I can have the same password. It doesn't matter. Authentication is a combination of username and password. So with password, I just want to make sure it's not null. Okay. Now with that said, that's question 1. Question 2 I can just copy this whole question, copy Control C, Control V. I'm going to make this question 2. Okay, now question 2 says, based on the sample data provided, and again that's the Clearwater Traders Database, chapter or pages 24, 5, 6, 25, 6, 7, something like that. Based on the sample data provided, determine the necessary column definition for each column contained in the following tables. Alright, so what I'm going to do here is simply keep that structure, and this is the easiest way to do this, and the CID is probably a number, and I would say probably 5 would be just fine on that. You can choose what you need, what you want. Okay, we'll see last. Now that should probably be a varchar 2 and maybe 30 characters in length. See first, varchar 2 and let's say 15. Now you can go ahead and make reasonable assumptions on these field widths. Okay, so just as long as they're reasonable, anything will be correct as long as it's reasonable. 100 characters for a last name is not reasonable. Okay, now see middle, that's probably going to be a char because you're going to take a middle initial, 1 character, char 1. Okay, and then address, probably something that's reasonable, varchar 2, and let's say 40. That's reasonably reasonable. So you see what I'm doing? I'm just removing the constraints, or the constraints, and then putting the data types in those field areas. User ID is probably varchar 2 because it can be 5 characters. It probably has to be minimally 8. Typically, usernames are minimally 8, but it can be longer than that. So varchar 2, and I would probably want to say maybe up to 15. Depends upon the policy. And then password, varchar 2 and probably 8 characters. Okay, so that's what question 2 would probably look like. Question 3 then goes on to say, and I'm just going to copy everything from question 2, paste it into question 3. Okay, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit. Question 3. Now what it says is, using the results from case 1 and case 2, write the SQL commands necessary to create the customer orders, order line, order source, category, item, and inventory tables. So you want to create those 5 or 6 tables using this very same technique. So I would create table customer. Okay, now in parentheses you have to create this table structure, add the commas at the end of each line. Okay, commas. Now of course this is not going to be working because I have left the in-betweens out. I need to put commas though. And then I need to define the primary key, constraint. Now the naming convention used would be for a constraint, customer, the table. Now which field is the primary key? C underscore ID underscore, what kind of constraint? PK, primary key. Notice that my syntax, the case is lowercase. In the text it shows you uppercase. Doesn't make any difference. And I think, if I have my syntax right, ID. And then we have to close the parentheses because this one and this need to be closed and semicolon. Okay. Now I did take the liberty of grabbing. Let's see, where is it? Of grabbing this. So that's what that table should probably look like. I'm going to take this, put it into my homework assignment. So it says in question 3 you build the tables. In question 4 you'll actually run the scripts. So in question 3 the table will actually look like that. Okay, notice this is just what I put together. This is what your table will probably look like. And then in question 4 you're going to run the script. So I'm going to take this just like I have in the past, copy it. Okay, go back into SQL, run from the command line. Remember that, I think I have to connect. Okay. Pause. Alright, the SQL prompt just came back. So let me step through this again. I'll highlight that, copy that, come into here. You know what I have to do? If I remember right, we still have a customer table out there from the last video. So I'm going to drop table customer cascade constraints, table drop, so I did have that out there, and I'm going to simply right click and hit enter. Okay, table's created. So what you'll do at that point, or what you should do for the homework assignment, is describe the table name, customer, and then what I'd like to have you do is just simply click and hold at this point. I want to see the command, and I want to see that you have done, you've successfully created a table and what that table structure looks like. Okay, if you just highlight all of that, hit enter, come back into your homework assignment, go to question 4 and paste it. And then you'll do the same thing for, what is it, order source, next one. But anyway, for all of those tables, do that very same thing for all of those tables. So I think question 5 says use the SQL Plus utility to perform the following tasks. Change the name of the orders table to order. Think about reserved words, and you may have to change orders to some other name because order is a reserved word. Delete the CMI column from the customer table. Go back to that chapter 2 PowerPoint or in the text and review how to drop fields. Okay, drop columns. Okay, and then the C is change the definition of OMETH payment column to of the order table so that it can be defined as a char. Go back in your text and find that. D, use the user constraints view to display the name of all constraints from the order table. I forget which page that's on in your text, but that's kind of a hinky looking command, and it's on the right side of the page, and it's up a little bit, and it looks like select user constraints from user tables where table name is or equals. So it's a command that looks like that, but your table name has to be in uppercase. Okay, the table name absolutely has to be in uppercase, but that'll show you all of the user constraints from that particular table. And then you'll drop that order source table in E and F, delete the customer and order tables. So and that'll be the orders table or that new name. So anyway, I think that will give you a good idea of how to complete the chapter 2 problems. Let me know if you have any problems. Thank you.